All right, there we
You know
go.
what? Do you know what episode of Uncertain Dots this is? You probably don't know, do you?
This is 18.
Yeah, it's 18.
Yeah, so we can vote now.
Well, we can't drink.
So not
Not
yet.
yet. Or
But,
maybe in DC.
cigarettes
Can
and
you drink in
R-rated
DC?
movies. So
That's right. Oh, I thought that was 17.
I don't know. All I know is as recently as like 2002 or thereabouts, Kate got carded buying tickets for an R-rated movie. So we went somewhere and she was paying for the tickets, asked for 2 tickets, and they asked to see her ID. So,
Yeah,
which
but
I
it was
thought
probably
hilarious.
some kid, and they don't know anything, and they're like, and the manager said, always card everyone,
Yeah.
right?
So
So,
I don't know. I enjoyed that, but
okay, so the first thing I want to talk about, I have two agenda items, which is amazing, right?
we have an agenda.
That I have two at all. Yeah, I made one up. It's in my head. So the first, you were on someone else's Google Hangout. You did a Google Hangout with someone else.
Yeah, the Read
How'd that
Sign
go?
hangout where they so they talk about books. So it was a 3-way, or 3 people doing
Because
it.
they're obviously more professional than we are, and probably know a couple tricks that we don't know, right?
It didn't seem, the experience wasn't a whole lot different.
Okay.
The it was basically the same, looked like the same software, and they were.
Was it live?
Same basic thing. Yeah, they did it. They did it live, and they actually knew how to get the chat
Aha.
thing
See?
going, which we've never really figured out, have we?
No, we really haven't tried too hard, but
So
we tried one time and it didn't work. And like,
it's like, yeah, we'll just post the YouTube videos.
So, but you posted you're pretty much finished with your new book.
Yeah, I sent in the copy edits on the book, which if you ever want to feel like an illiterate goober, get a really good copy editor to go over your text, find all the places where your grasp of English turns out not to be as good as you think it is. And
I'm okay with that.
But
I mean, my standard comments to editors are, if it's wrong, fix it, and I'll read it. And if you broke the physics, then I'll fix that. But I have no problem if it's wrong, then fix it. I have no attachment to that particular word. They do break the physics, though.
Sometimes this one is less physicsy, so there weren't as many places where errors might creep in that way. I do get weirdly attached to some turns of phrase, or there are places where particular things that the copy editor highlighted just rubbed me the wrong way for reasons I couldn't really define. Like there was a place where I was talking about Steely Kid, and I said, now that she's gotten older, blah blah blah, and they have a general policy of trying to eliminate ambiguous contractions. So, she's there could be she is, could be she has. So they wanted to change it to she has. And I'm like, that just sounds so stuffy. It's like, now that she has gotten older, like that doesn't sound like, that's not the informal thing that I'm looking for.
You said, now since time has moved forward in the positive sense.
Yeah.
That's the same thing, right?
So I fumbled around quite a bit to come up with something else. I came out like
I found that the hardest editing where they break stuff is like with these really short things. Like I'm working on this Angry Birds Museum piece, and they have little panels. It's like 40 words. You need to describe quantum mechanics in 40 words.
Yes.
And you're very careful not to say anything that's absolutely wrong, right? I mean, you can't describe quantum mechanics, but you can say things that aren't wrong. And then they'll go and change it, and I'm like, no, now it's just wrong. You can't say that. So it's very, very delicate when you have those very few words. But when you have longer manuscripts, I don't think there's as much. It's not as fragile, right?
Yeah, that 6-minute thing I did for TED was brutal. Like getting I was getting like a chapter of my book to a 6-minute presentation for this TED audition thing was ridiculously difficult.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I had to talk fairly fast to fit it all in.
And you don't really want to do that, but you don't really have another option,
Yeah. But I was like I stripped out a whole bunch of stuff, and said things that are kind of it's not wrong, so it's not badly wrong.
That's what I aim for. It could be true in a particular case, so that's good enough.
You got to watch out for that you don't go into the weird ass Brian Cox thing from several years ago where he was talking about he's rubbing a piece of diamond and said rubbing this and it's changing the state of electrons in Alpha Centauri, and that kicked off a big argument on a couple of blogs about whether that was meaningfully true.
But have you been to Alpha Centauri?
Exactly.
And so you don't know. Maybe he's right.
Don't know. The conclusion is that there's probably my conclusion anyway was there's probably a narrow technical sense in which that's true, but you're changing it by a part in 10 to the 30, and who cares?
Right.
That's not actually anything you're ever going to measure.
But that's the point that we're trying to make when we talk to these people. Technically you could possibly be literally true, but when you do that, you bring in the normal, people would say, oh, you just changed you made an electron jump up a level or something like that in Alpha Centauri, and they interpret it in a way that we don't want them to interpret it. Yeah,
and the trick is finding ways to phrase things so that you don't end up saying, so that what you say is literally true in a way that doesn't unnecessarily introduce that kind of confusion.
Right. And it's tough. That's tough.
Yeah. It's a really hard thing to do.
And when you're in the short words or the short time, it's a challenge. I kind of enjoy the challenge. Sort of like the challenge of writing haiku. It's the same thing.
Yeah, some really constrained poetry style. And then, it's a kick when it works right. And when it doesn't, it's kind of the week that it takes to come up with those 40 words it can be pretty miserable. But once you come up with the right ones, it's like, oh yeah, I rule.
And then someone changes it by editing, and you got to start all over.
I just wrote a thing for like a talk abstract for the UK because I'm going there in August, and I'm going to give a talk there, and wrote a little abstract for him and sent it off and said, like, feel free to change the spelling, and if there's an idiom that I use that is just if you need to add extra U's to things to make it look right for you, go ahead and do that.
No, really, I really don't. I mean, and I tell my we have editors at Wired, and I said, you don't have to ask me if you want to change something. I know the people that if it's some mistake, you probably fix it. If it's a physics thing, ask me, but otherwise, just don't bother me. I mean, not that I don't mind being bothered. Just do it. It's probably in a hurry. Just do it.
Yeah, it's probably wrong.
Right, it's probably wrong. So just go ahead and do it.
So just feel free to fix that. Yeah. Science Blogs doesn't do that.
Well, they and I kind of like this. If we have a post that's going to get promoted to the front page of Wired, then they'll have some people check the pictures, maybe read through it, and maybe change the title a little bit, and it's weird. It changes the title it doesn't actually change my title. It just changes the title as it appears on the front page. So, which is I'm okay with. Sometimes they can over questionify a title, and it makes it not necessarily true, misleading, but all newspapers and articles always do that anyway, right?
Yeah, headline writing that's a thing that shocked me when I learned it about journalism in general, is that typically the headlines are written by somebody else. Like, it's not the author of the piece isn't generally the one who decides what the headline is, and so the headlines it's like a different department. And so those science stories with really, where it's a really good story and a really stupid headline, it's probably because it was a different person who wrote the headline.
What do you do when you write your headlines? I mean, what kind of things do you think about writing your headlines?
I'm absolutely horrible with coming up with headlines for things, which is why you see a lot of posts on my blog that are just like, on stuff. Because it's just like, oh, screw it. I don't know what to call this. I have a tendency to, like, in the books, there are a lot of like section headers. Like the chapters are broken up into little subsections with bold titles, and those are frequently, will be a cutesy reference to something, like a Princess Bride allusion or
stuff that you get.
Yeah, some joke that makes sense to me. And the tricky thing with that, and I used to do more of that on the blog, but it's risky because you never know if it's going to end up being a reference that makes any sense to anyone else.
I mean, partly if it doesn't, I mean, that's what makes a blog so great. It's that, hey, I'm going to write this, and haha, I think it's funny, and you don't even get it, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. I really wrote it for me anyway, so.
Yeah.
But
yeah. But the downside, the risk of that is if it doesn't make any sense, or if it's too cryptic and obscure, then people won't read it.
Yeah, that's true.
And they'll say, they don't have any idea what it's about. I go back and forth on that. And I'm currently in a more straightforward titles kind of phase. But there have been times when I was like, no, damn it, it's my blog. I'm gonna do things that amuse me.
Right. That's what I like to do.
Yeah.
Well, and I find the same issue comes up when I'm writing. If I want to share my post on Twitter, now I have, probably 90 characters after the title and everything is in there to say something about, what's this post about or why should you read this post? And it's sometimes challenging. The physics of is easy.
Yeah.
But if you could say, could you run up a wall? That's the best kind, right? Because then I'm going to try to answer the question, could you run up a wall?
Or this one weird trick for running up a wall.
Right. So, but it's a challenge. I find that to be a challenge to try to, put that in something short like Twitter.
Yeah. 23 things you need to know about trying to run up walls.
Oh, if you have a number in your title, that's great. As long as it's not one of those, I don't like the slideshow anymore where 1, 2, 3. I don't do that.
I went to something the other day with like it was like 10 amazing things about some movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, I like that movie. Let's see what the amazing things are. And I click on it.
All the way through.
Not only is it a slideshow, it's a slideshow with 33 pages.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't get more than one page per thing. Like you've.
It's terrible. And on top of that,
spread your things out over 3 pages each. Like,
and on top of that, it's slow.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just go click, 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 click. I can read fast, and then I'm going click, wait, and I'm like, I really want to kind of see what number 4 is, but I kind of also don't. So I'm trying not to click those things anymore.
Yeah, there's also a lot of things that turn out to be videos that don't have a transcript. And that always annoys me a little bit. He says on their video hangout thing. But, you get this, and they're usually like the outrage clickbait things, like, you won't believe what this senator just said. And I'm like, well, I might believe it, but, am I going to watch a 3-minute video to find out? No. Like, if you gave me, if you had a paragraph saying, here is the thing that he said, and if I really want to hear the inflection in his voice as he says it, then I'll watch the video. But,
I prefer to read.
Give me a transcript.
Yeah, I prefer that. Okay, I have another agenda item.
Okay.
Here's the next agenda item. So what are your thoughts on, writing for free? So let's say someone asked you, hey, could you, write something on and put it on our thing, and what do you think about that?
I go, back and forth on that a little. So the controversial aspect of that is, at some point, you're taking away from somebody else who might do it for money, and so if someone asks me for something for free, I end up asking, are you asking it because you want a story about this scientific development? If you want me to be a journalist, you want me to write a news story about some quantum computing thing, then I would be doing essentially Dennis Overby's job, right? And at that point, well, if you hired that person, they would get paid, and so I ought to get money for it. If you're asking me for commentary, or like based on your position as a physicist who runs a blog, what is your feeling on this? And I'm writing like an op-ed sort of thing, or just here's my feelings on some issue, where somebody else is not going to be able to produce an equivalent product that you would pay for, then I'll sometimes do it. It also depends on the organization. And
yeah.
If it's like if it's for a website that gets a lot more traffic than I do, that would reach an audience I don't usually do, I might do that.
So if it was Physics Today, if Physics Today asked you, okay, can you tell us about, I don't know, Legolas's eyes? Okay, I'm just pick that because that came up.
Right.
And you said you may say, okay, well, it's Physics Today, right? I'd probably do it.
Yeah, no, and I've done a bunch of short pieces for Physics World that way. Like I wrote a thing about the faster than light neutrino business. I wrote a little commentary thing saying, look, they didn't actually do anything wrong. They didn't actually call CNN and schedule a press conference before doing anything scientific. What they did is they posted a preprint on the archive and they had a seminar at CERN. And they're doing the appropriate thing.
That's the normal thing.
Now,
did they ask you, or you said, "Hey, I want to write about this," and so Physics World, would you be interested in this?
In that specific case, I contacted them and said, I have an idea for this. But I've done 3 or 4 of those over the years, and there's sort of a standing thing there where they said, hey, if you ever have something that you would like, let us know. And what usually happens is I come up with something that would actually make a decent commentary piece for something like Physics World or Physics Today or somebody like that, and then I get 3/4 of the way into typing it into the WordPress text editor, and then realize, oh crap, I could probably put this somewhere else. But then I put so much work into typing it into the blog that I just post it on the blog. And once it's on the blog, then they don't want it anymore. So.
That's right. It's used. We don't want used stuff.
I've done book reviews for Physics Today too.
Okay.
So
I think the only thing that I've done free that was asked, and I did 4 of them. I did 4 blog posts for the European Space Agency. They wanted me to write stuff. So and I don't know. I should at least get a T-shirt.
Yeah.
I think.
I did a longer piece for Physics World on electric dipole moment measurements several years ago, and that they paid me for.
Oh, okay.
But then I was doing journalism. I wrote up a description of the physics behind it, but like I also contacted a bunch of people in the field and asked them for, it's people I happen to know, so it wasn't like a real hard thing to get information.
Well, don't tell them that, or they're not going to pay you. It was hard, right?
But writing it was hard. Like getting it under 1,500 words was the hard part.
But it was online, right?
No, that was in the print magazine.
Okay.
Yeah. It is online, and when I post this video, I'll dig up a link. And
okay.
I think it's one of those you need a free registration thing to read it, but you can read it online. So, yeah.
So what do you think? do you think? I mean, what do you think? You've been blogging for a long time, and I've been blogging for a little bit. And so, what do you think about the future of blogging as a I don't know, as a career where you could actually make enough money that it could be your thing? I mean, maybe we've talked about this before, but I mean, where do you think things are going with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the tricky thing about it is like anything else online, the only way to how you get income from from a blog is still a hard problem, because what do you do to support it? Well, you sell ads, but nobody clicks on ads on the internet, really. So and the people who buy the ads know that nobody clicks on them. So you get paid like per person who clicks on the ad, and so it's hard to make money off that unless you start doing those those pop-up ads that it says you skip this ad in 10, 9, 8, sort of.
But no one clicks those either.
And nobody likes those, and I don't think anybody clicks on anybody buys anything based on those. So getting the cash flow, getting the money coming in is a hard thing to do, and nobody really wants to pay money to subscribe to read your blog site. So I think it's a hard thing. I think that your best bet is to be affiliated with some network like Wired or Scientific American or Science Blogs, or one of those groups where they sort of pool a whole bunch of them together and some.
Yeah, but none of those pay enough that could be your job, right? I mean.
Yeah, I don't think any of those. I think there are people who probably do make a living at blogging, but they're doing like your Gawker kind of, or like IO9. Those people might be. I think they have people who are on staff there who, like their whole job is writing content for that blog. But then that's not really like a blog,
right? It's more like a staff writer. That's what that would be.
Yeah, you're a staff writer for a magazine that happens to only publish online, and so in the sense of like something that you set up as a personal site and then run, I think it's really hard to do. The thing that it seems to be getting used more and more for is people who use it as a demonstration of their ability to write. Right, so you launch your blog because you're thinking of going into science communication sorts of things, and then that establishes you as someone who can write stuff, and then you get on.
So like a portfolio.
Yeah, you get on the radar, and then eventually get a job.
Well, which I think it's great for that. I mean, I really think that's the outside the. I want to write a blog because I want to write, but if you want to look at it in terms of how could this be useful? Getting your foot into the door into doing other things is very, very great.
But it has really changed the sort of complexion of blogging in general. It's become much more a thing that people do as a step toward a career as a writer or some sort of science communication sort of thing, rather than something that scientists do on the side, and that's really sort of changed the way things operate. Like you and I are both we have day jobs as professors, and we write about that, and like the blogging stuff is stuff. Some of it sort of fits into classes, some of it doesn't. It's an outlet for things that may or may not fit in with the main job. But neither of us is doing it to pay the rent, right?
I'm doing it to pay for beer.
As our primary thing, exactly. And so, but you get a lot more of the new blogs starting out are people who are clearly aimed at a career doing that kind of thing, just writing about science for a general audience. And so you see more of a focus in that, as it's not quite as random, And I think there's also a degree
blog.
to, like, a lot of the newer blogs coming in are in like Scientific American has added a whole slew of them over the last few years, and there I think there's also some editorial oversight there. It's like they don't want the random, hey, here's a post about my kids, that which science blogs is still willing to roll with, and so
I can do that. I can write whatever I want. They just won't put it on the front page, but
right.
Well, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, see if you can get an article about your kids playing soccer on.
Well, you know what? Especially, I do. I mean, if I have a picture of I wrote about sparklers. Who's on the front page?
Right.
My son, one of my sons. And usually my kids are. See, I don't have to pay for it. It's mine. I already used it, so that's why I take so many pictures, because I use them for my blog.
Yeah.
Why have kids if you can't put them on your blog?
Exactly. When I give my wonders of blogging talk, I do say that I think there's a useful aspect to having your kids appear periodically, which is to remind people that these scientists aren't just weird unemotional eggheads, right? We have kids, we have families, we have pets, and that's humanizes the profession.
But, I want to write about the World Cup. Well, my kids play soccer, so they're in there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to picture, which I may or may not have permission for. If they want to replace the picture later, that's fine. But the first picture is going to have 12-year-old soccer games in there. So
yeah,
that just works better.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to have, I think.
Yeah, and it gives a lot of flavor and personality to the blog, also, I think. So.
Yeah. So the quasi agenda item I had something I was going to bring up in this. Did you see this thing that's going around, the psychologist ranting about replication studies?
No. I'm taking summer classes. I'm trying to keep my head above water right now. So.
This is all over Twitter at the moment. There's some guy there's this big controversy in psychology now where people are there's like a little mini movement to replicate experiments, and people go and try and do the exact thing that's described in a paper, and some substantial number of them turn out not to work. So there are these effects that are measured in one experiment, and then somebody else goes and does the exact same thing, and they don't find the same effect
because they don't have the exact same people.
Right. And so this guy's claim is that failed replications have zero scientific value because positive evidence for something is infinitely better than negative evidence of anything. It's like,
what? Doesn't make any sense.
No.
Okay.
So there are a whole bunch of people.
But psychological experiments, educational experiments, medical experiments, these things are tough. They are difficult to do. They're very difficult to do. I mean, what's great about an electron? They're all the same.
Yeah, and they have no personality.
They're indistinguishable. Even if you wanted to say this electron or that one, you can't. It's great. Even aluminum. You get an aluminum block, and you go to Sweden and get an aluminum block. It's pretty much the same thing, right? So, but I could teach a class with students one semester, and the next semester my students are completely different. So. Yeah,
they're confused about different things, and
they watch different TV shows. They've seen different cat videos on the internet, and that has all those things add up. So.
Yeah. The other thing that's nice about electrons is they're really cheap.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do something with rubidium atoms, right? I can get billions of rubidium atoms for nothing, and every single one of them is the same. I can repeat that experiment as many times as I want with no problem.
What about isotopes of rubidium?
If you want 100 students to do some educational experiment, boy, you got to work at that.
It's tough. It is tough.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and then on top of that, you have to get all the IRB approval. You don't have to do that with with electrons, right?
Just go to work for Facebook.
I know, that's for sure.
You don't need any approval.
Even though they did get approval for that.
It's not clear.
Well, I heard that that the faculty that were doing the research got IRB approval, and their claim and it would fly if I put this through my IRB board. I'd say I'm not doing the experiment. I'm just getting data from Facebook, and I'm not going to know anyone. And that university is looking at that person. Does that faculty do anything bad? Because they have no control over Facebook, and Facebook does something that on Facebook side they didn't. It's not like people are paying for Facebook and they're abusing them. Facebook gives them service for free too. So.
Yeah. The thing about that ends up bugging me. I mean, I agree that as described, it sounds kind of creepy that they're manipulating people's news feeds and seeing how that affects them. But I am somewhat persuaded by the argument that they do that all the time anyway. And it seems like the only reason anybody's objecting is that they're trying to report their results. And if Facebook just went and screwed around with the content of with the algorithm they're using to decide which stories to show you, if they just do that, nobody's saying that they can't do that. It's their stupid algorithm. They can make it be whatever they want. And it seems like they've only run into this problem because they're trying to share what they learned from doing that thing that they're doing anyway. And that doesn't seem quite right to me.
If they did it with the intention of improving the performance of Facebook and getting more profit, which is what they do, I don't think anyone would have complained, right?
Yeah.
When they say, okay, look, and here's what we did, and we're going to share our data with the world, not the data, but the outcome, the analysis. I don't see why people get upset about that. Don't use Facebook if you don't like what they're doing, because they're doing that anyway.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I understand that you don't really want to do that if if you're doing a study with a bunch of undergrads, you don't want to mess with them too much. Yeah, it might be a little creepy if you're doing that in person, but it's what they do anyway, and it's a really as big as the numbers are, it's a really trivial fraction of their users who are affected. And I don't think that anything they did was that severe an effect.
What if they did it like this? What if they said, we made algorithm changes, which they do, and we made some algorithm changes for different sets of people, and then we just look for correlations between changes that might have a negative impact with their own posts, and approach it that way. So it's not really looking at the data afterwards. It's the same outcome, but I don't think anyone would have a problem with that.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's not. It's far enough outside my field that I don't know.
But just think, how many? Let's say Facebook has 10 million users. I don't even know. Do you know?
Like 1 billion users.
Okay, a billion users. Let's say we had 1 billion physics students that we could look at the algorithm for what kind of questions they got and how they replied. I mean, you could do some pretty cool stuff.
Oh yeah. No, that would be. I'm struggling all the time with the FCI or the BIMA test in the intro classes. Like, oh yeah, this looks like these scores went up a lot, and but it's a sample of 16 students.
Right.
What does that actually mean? That doesn't.
It'd be much better to say, hey, look, Bobby really now understands physics because look, his free body diagram is correct, and at the beginning of the semester he wasn't doing it right. Then you say yes, right?
Yeah.
You can look at the individual students when you have 16 students. You have a good feeling for how they're doing, and you can say, well, this student really improved.
Yeah. But like quantifying that for people who aren't in the class is
you can't.
to do.
You can't. And we should. And why would you? I mean, and that's part of the problem. We have these, external evaluations of classes for whatever stupid thing it is that they want. How we would need to know how the class is doing so we can give you a number score.
Yeah.
I just think that's silly.
Yeah, but it's also inescapable.
Yeah.
Like I get people asking me for this stuff, and we have to write assessment reports now because when we had our last reaccreditation review, that's the thing, and so now institutionally we need to be collecting assessment data every year. And
we do it too.
Like,
it's dumb though. It's stupid stuff. I mean, I just try not to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
It's meaningless, but people want it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have enough students, like I think, you look at some of the PER groups out there that are working with, their 400 student intro sections at the Naval Academy or whatever. Then I believe that, if you're doing that and you're, changing something from one group to the next, then I believe, you've probably got enough statistical power to say something meaningful about what your new approaches are doing. But it's just so hard for us.
Well, I want to be clear. I think that as a department, the physics department should always be concerned with: are we doing what we need to be doing? Can we be doing a better job? Is there anything that we should change?
Mm-hmm.
We should definitely do that, and we do that in our own courses. You're teaching the course. These students aren't getting free body diagrams. What can I do to make it better? The problem is with accreditation agencies and their assessment reports is they want it to be statistically significant with numerical values and quantifiable assessment. And with the low numbers, it's a dumb game that you're playing in that case, right? To try to make it into a number. And so that's the problem, really. Not that we shouldn't assess. We should, but we shouldn't be forced into a numerical assessment for everything.
Yeah.
So.
I agree with that. But
okay, well, we went over 30 minutes. What do you think? Pretty good?
I think, knock off now. I'll be home in time to see the soccer game. So
who's playing today?
It's Germany versus what's left of Brazil.
Oh, that's right. So, I got to go watch. I forgot. I got to go watch soccer. I took a little break after the 4th of July weekend, and I forgot we still have World Cup. So.
Yeah, so there's still a little bit of World Cup left.
Good.
What, 4 more games?
Yeah. No, what?
2 semifinals, a third place game, and
right.
And the championship. So.
Good.
There's 4 good teams left, so
yeah.
I mean, I'm probably jinxing them by saying this, but I always, half root for Germany because, mostly because two of their key players over the last 10 years or so are actually Polish. And so the Polish national team isn't any good, but I can vicariously root for the Poles who are playing for the Germans. And that works.
Yeah.
That works. So.
Well, good.
Yeah. So. All right.
All right.
Sounds good. So until next time.
Yep. We'll see you.